Hi there, I'm John Lebensold for Killer PHP, and today what I'm going to be talking about is left joins and right joins, or they're also known as inner joins and outer joins. And we're going to be building off of an example from the first video where we created a category table and a post table. So I'm just going to go back to my wonderful script that was written in the last video. And here you can see that we've basically got code to create a category table, and we've got code to create a post table. And then we've just got a bunch of insertions into the category table and then a bunch of insertions into the post table. So far, so good. So if I just select all of this and I paste it in, then I should be able to do a very simple join by doing something like select star from post p left join category c on p dot category id equals c dot id, which was the last thing we did in the last video. So if I hit enter, as I mentioned before, you're going to get an ID and you're going to get a category ID and so on and so forth. Now, this isn't exactly the best way of doing a select statement, because you'll notice that now we've got these two ID fields, which can be very misleading. If you were to run this query in PHP and then you wanted to grab everything from the ID field, PHP might actually get confused as to which ID column you're talking about, since we've got one ID column on the left, which is going from 1 to 6, and the other one on the right, which is basically the join on categories. So one way of mitigating that is to actually be a little more specific in our joins. We can do something like select p.title, comma, p.content, comma, c.name from post p left join category c on p.category underscore id. So you'll notice that this is exactly the same thing that we just did, except that now, instead of this star, we're actually replacing that by being a little more selective about the columns that we're asking for. The only part of this select query that's changed is the star. The star has been replaced by title, content, and category name. And so now I'm getting something a little different. Oh, whoops, I forgot the on category underscore ID is equal to c.id. There we go. Sorry about that. So here, now I'm getting something that looks a little more useful to my PHP application. The advantage of something like this is that, let's say I want to change politics and I want it to be uppercase now. I only need to make a change to one table and one place. So if I do an update statement and I say update category set name equals politics, where name equals politics, and then I were to rerun this query, then you'd notice that both of these categories automatically changed. And that's really the power of a relational database, is that you can change the way that the database is relating information and making sure that at the same time you only have one copy of every single bit of data. And by ensuring that you only have one copy, you're going to make sure that there's a high level of integrity to your data. If somebody changes something, then everything else is going to change. As opposed to, if you had an employees table and you had, if you had like an employee with an HR department, and then you had a project manager who also had their own, listing of the employee, and one person decided to change the salary of that person and the other person didn't get wind of it, then you would have the scenario where you'd have the same data, but it would actually be different in two different places. And relational databases mitigate those problems tremendously through building these kind of relationships through primary and foreign keys, which is what we're doing. So that is a left join. Let's go back to the first left join that we did, which was this one right here. Now we can also do a right join, which is actually the opposite. So if I do a select star from post P, because you might see this. The right join, or also known as the outer join, on category C on P dot category underscore ID equals C dot ID, then we're going to get something a little different in that now we're going to get null values. And the reason is that we're joining the category table to the post table. And we end up with something like this, where we've got all the categories, including the categories that aren't even being used. If we wanted to take this a step further, and we were absolutely adamant about doing a right join, then we would want to filter that out. And we could do that just by saying where p.id, in other words, where the post ID is not null. And this would, of course, clean it up. Now, I want to illustrate one more kind of caveat in all of this. What if we have a post that doesn't have a category? It's a good question. So in my script over here, I'm going to just do that and see what happens. So I'm going to create another post here, and the title of this post is going to be, I don't know, favorite sandwich recipes. And it doesn't really belong anywhere. Well, it probably belongs in other, but just to illustrate my point, I'm going to set this to null. So we're not going to have a category ID. Select all, copy, paste, and we're good to go again. If I say select star from post, I'm going to see that I have my category IDs, and then I've got my favorite sandwich recipes that are unfortunately not going to be represented here. So I think it's a good time now to actually start remembering these join statements in my script. I'll go back to the one we just did. So select star from post P, left join category C on P dot category underscore ID equals C dot ID. See, it becomes like a second language. And I'm just going to paste this at the bottom here so we don't forget about it. So here what we're getting is the opposite problem, where we've got a category or we've got a post, but the post doesn't have a category. Now, depending on the kind of business rules that you have, this might or might not be a problem. And this is really the flexibility that the database offers you. You know, if it's not relevant to a particular post, then you might just want to say where is not null for the category ID, much like what we did in the last video, in the last example with the right join. So that's a quick wrap up of left and right joins.